What is going on, everybody? Travis Fowler, Hark Rider, back again this week to do one of my favorite things, which is what we do every single week on this podcast, and that's talk about pro wrestling. So, let's not waste any time. Let's talk wrestling because it has been a big week leading into Smackdown's opening matchup, which was the steel cage match between Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. And I saw praise online that I'd have to agree with. It was a pay-per-view quality match, and it really helped go into this next phase for the Bloodline, as well as maybe opening a door for Cody Rhodes to do other things, and hopefully by the end of Bad Blood, close this chapter with the Bloodline. Eventually, I think we can resurface this feud between the Bloodline and Cody, but I would have to agree with a lot of people's sentiment that right now the Bloodline story should really focus on Roman getting back his rightful place by taking out those who look to take it away from him. So I think that's where we're going to see this storyline end up going. I think that's where it should go. And let's see if we can find something else for Cody after Bad Blood. But I do look forward to seeing the match that's been officially made, which is the Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns team against Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. I think it'll be a fun tag team match. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is they're wanting to do with Jacob Fatu, because it looks as if Solo's kind of keeping, I don't want to say a leash, but it's about the only way I can describe it, on Jacob from going in and going too crazy. You saw him pull him out of the cage. There's been instances where he's held him back. So I'm wondering if this is something to lead to an eventual defection from Jacob Fatu to maybe the OG Bloodline before Survivor Series, because most people like myself feel like that this is going to head towards War Games and Bloodline 2.0 faces OG Bloodline. I think that's still the money match. All signs are pointing that's where it's going to go, but we need to have some more players involved. There's been rumors of Zilla Fatu getting involved in this. We've seen Jacob Fatu actually post a picture of him and Zilla together because they were actually a team before Jacob Fatu got signed to the WWE. We've already heard the rumbling rumors of Hikuleo. I really can't bring myself to really believe they're going to call him Talatonga. I just can't, but for the moment, we're going to use what he's gone by in Japan, which is the Hikuleo name. And we still need to see some of those guys get involved to, I think, really round out this story. We're getting close, and I think we're going to see someone show up, I think, at Bad Blood. Who it will be has yet to be determined. But overall, great way to continue on with this story. Also with Bad Blood, we saw on Monday, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley have made it official, and I really am still holding out hope that they're going to throw them with the Hell in the Cell stipulation, because I think it warrants it. McIntyre and Punk also got the Hell in the Cell announcement. I'm hoping that that lives up to what a lot of people are hoping, which is just going to be an all-out fight. They've done great with this feud. I would say for this year, you could really make the argument that McIntyre and Punk has been the best feud for the WWE. You could also make the argument that Swerve and Hangman has been the best feud for AEW, and of those two, they have been the best storylines in pro wrestling this year. As to which one is better, that all depends on your taste, honestly. I'm not going to make the selection until we see how Bad Blood ends between them, but I think that would be my pick for rivalry of the year, is between McIntyre and Punk or between Swerve and Hangman. Over on the AEW side, we have seen a little bit more progression on this Jon Moxley thing. A little bit more of the actions were explained as to why they attacked Bryan Danielson at All Out. We also got the announcement that Darby Allin will not be facing Bryan Danielson for the AEW title at Grand Slam. In a very interesting turn of events, they have now made it to where Moxley has goaded Darby into being in a one-on-one match for that shot at the AEW title. This goes in with Moxley's plan, who we still don't know exactly what he's referring referring to by saying like the diplomacy didn't work and this is not your AEW anymore, what he said to Tony Schiavone, I think obviously that was still referencing Tony Khan. We don't know where this is going, but it's a very interesting take on where we are heading. Is this going to be another hostile takeover situation? Is this BCC teaming up with the Elite? What, we don't know, and that's what I like, is that it's bringing a reason to come back and watch Dynamite the following week. And honestly, it opens up a little doors to show on the other shows as well, because we saw Wheeler Yuta just on Collision. I saw the clip where he actually lost it on a guy who was making fun of him with the Danielson thing. So this is all great layers of storytelling. And Adam Copeland recently just talked about how AEW is starting to become more storytelling aspect. That's what has been missing from AEW, is shifting their focus away from just purely the in-ring wrestling and focusing on characters, focusing on the stories, focusing on reasons for people to come back. I think there's no secret to what I said when I said Mariah May and Toni Storm had the best storyline going into All In. And I think that kind of opened the door, along with the Hangman and Swerve feud, that, yeah, stories are what's going to drive people to come back to your product and see what happens next. They are doing that quite successfully. And I really am looking forward to seeing what AEW does moving forward. They've been doing great business over the last couple weeks. Honestly, you could even argue a month. Grand Slam is going to be a pretty fun show that we're going to get on free TV. Also, I want to give two shout-outs to two tag teams specifically on the AEW side. The Outrunners had a spectacular promo video that was a VHS callback to like the 80s of them working out in a gym, just being extremely pumped and sweaty. It looked really good. And they've been showcasing their charisma and their in-ring ability. They've been doing pretty good over in Ring of Honor for a while, but now you're starting to see more focus on them on the actual AEW roster side, and they're an entertaining team. Same can be said for the M&M collection. They've done a great job of showcasing their abilities as well. The M&M collection has been outstanding. They're funny, they're charismatic as well, much like the Outrunners. They've been doing great work since being signed to AEW and ROH as well. So props to both of those teams for doing great business. Now, over on Raw's side of things, we saw the Wyatt Six and American Made pull off their final blow-off match, and it was a great street fight for Monday. Jey Uso also has solidified his spot as the number one contender for the IC title, and he'll take on Braun Breaker, which should be a fun match, but I do not see Jey picking up the IC belt right now. Breaker has been on a roll, and I very much hope this title reign continues for Braun Breaker. We got the announcement by Adam Pearce yesterday that it's going to be a rematch of Bronson Reed taking on Braun Strowman. Those two actually put on a really fun hoss fight just a couple weeks back. I look forward to seeing the rematch this week. So I am very much excited overall for professional wrestling. They've been doing great things on all fronts, even on the TNA side. TNA had a Victory Road event just this past Friday, and I have yet to get around to watching it, but overall, TNA has been having great success. They had yet another sellout for their event, which was the Victory Road event, and then last night, the subsequent TV tapings had another sellout audience. TNA has finally started hitting a stride again. They started at the beginning of this year by selling out Hard to Kill and the return to the TNA name. I fully expect them to continue this momentum, and a lot of it I think you could attribute to the NXT success crossover between them. The NXT-TNA combination has been phenomenal, I think, for both sides, as it showcases the great talent over in TNA while giving some reps to some other talent in NXT, as well as showing up with some good time names as well, like Wendy Chu showing up at Victory Road to face Jordynne Grace for the Knockouts title. We've gotten Jordynne Grace introduced to the WWE audience, as has Joe Henry and Rosemary, just a couple names to boot there. Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel reforming the Rascals originally with Wes Lee was a fun time. Overall, this has been working to perfection, and I hope we continue this. I hope it goes a lot further, because Eventually, I would like to see some of the bigger NXT names show up over on TNA. I know I've seen the discourse online about it seems like WWE's been taking this as a one-sided situation, but keep in mind, they had one of their guys, Wesley, technically was beaten on a WWE NXT event by Zachary Wentz in that unbelievable match at No Mercy. So, while some may think it's a one-sided affair, I don't think I agree with that. I think it has been a mutual admiration for both companies backstage as well as on screen, and I think it's only going to continue to show success for both of those brands with this crossover. Now, on Friday, we saw the unveiling of a new Smackdown logo and theme, which has gotten a lot of hate online for some reason. I understand that some people aren't used to like the hip hop genre becoming the main focus of music and whatnot throughout professional wrestling, but that's where we're at now. And not all of hip hop and rap is bad for wrestling. I mean, shoot, ECW was doing it back in the 90s. So I actually think the song fits the vibe of SmackDown. You know, they got Megan Thee Stallion on there along with her feature. The new logo, I think, looks great. I like the combination of the S and the D together, and then, of course, they separate it to say SmackDown. I thought it looked really good. The presentation looked great on TV. Also, if some have noticed at the end of SmackDown, they actually had an executive producer's role credit at the very bottom of SmackDown at the end of the show. I haven't seen something like that since we saw full credits at the end of a WCW pay-per-view back in the 90s. So definitely somebody said this is exactly something that you would see back in WCW as well as a new era in WWE. This has never been done before, so outside of the third showing up at the very bottom of each event, this hasn't been done in any previous incarnation of WWE, so it is interesting to see, and I'm okay with it. Again, I grew up seeing it on one side of a wrestling show, so it's not like it's something unusual, but it is a pretty fun thing to see happening now in 2024. Also, JBL continuing to make his rounds in the wrestling world, showing up at MLW. Their event was free on YouTube last night, and he's showing up there. He's showing up everywhere. It's crazy, but he's already gotten a lot of good notoriety from this, and I think even Nick Nemeth said it on Busted Open. He has not said a single word. There's still no rhyme or reason why we've seen him show up at any of these other places. He's been at AAA, he's been at TNA, he's been at MLW, GCW, he's been everywhere. And we don't know why, which is awesome. It gets people talking. He has yet to say a word. It's almost like he's presenting himself as like a John Dutton from Yellowstone kind of outlaw showing up, not saying anything, just handling business and then leaving. He's whispered something to Nick Nemeth over on the TNA side, but we don't know what that was. He's even whispered something to some MLW reps. So is this leading to something bigger? I don't know. I am looking forward to seeing where this goes. JBL showing up at all these different places has to mean something. The question still remains, though, what exactly does it mean? And that's the best part about this whole scenario. But something that I felt was interesting when it comes to talent, one Matt Riddle, who has been very outspoken as to saying he feels like his business in WWE is not completed yet. Even though there has been rumors that he and Roman Reigns didn't get along, according to some sources, they still put on a great match. And Matt Riddle has, at least in my opinion, for the most part, been a consistent worker. It was sort of a shame when he got released when the WWE said it was time to move on. Of course, we know a lot of that had to deal with some of the extracurricular activities he did outside of his professional environment. I'm one that always believes in as long as you're not doing certain things that hurt other people, what you do in your private time is what you do. But I do understand some people's opinions saying that if you are with a worldwide or a national company, you have to portray a certain image at all times. I can understand that, but also you got to remember that these are still people that deserve their privacy too, and what they do in their own time is their own time. But apparently, Mr. Riddle's reputation has not actually gone over well with one Tony Khan. TK has reportedly had no interest in signing Matt Riddle to AEW at any point or time. Even those that have worked with Riddle in the past, they have only done so sparingly, and it seems to only be on the CMLL side when they have AEW talent compete over there. So I don't know if there's actually any heat between the two, but all I know is that it looks like we're not going to see Matt Riddle over in AEW anytime soon. The rumor mill is still going about saying that Bobby Lashley and MVP, maybe along with Shelton Benjamin, are going to show up in AEW as the Hurt Syndicate. We talked about MVP trademarking that name actually through his own company a few weeks back, but I, along with a few others, feel like if he does show up in AEW, it's not going to change things for him or the overall perception, and honestly, it could be a waste of time, which is why I still will profess that I think the best move for all three parties, if they want to actually do something big, is to go over to TNA right now. TNA is on fire, and I really do think they could do great work over on the TNA side. I've mentioned before, Lashley and MVP have both had success over there. I think they could continue their success along with Shelton Benjamin and give Shelton Benjamin a new platform to show off his name and his abilities. Even at his age now, he's been doing this for over 20 years, and he's great at it. Them as a team is a great team, as we saw with the Hurt Business and Cedric Alexander. So I think TNA would still be the right place for them to go. We still don't know exactly what's going to happen. Only time's going to tell us that. But I would still love it if Bobby Lashley, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin get the recognition they deserve. And I do feel like TNA would be the smarter choice as opposed to going anywhere else currently. Speaking of talents and being signed and showing up, 2 rumors to tag teams that are still out there. Most believe the Lucha Brothers are going to sign with WWE, and the rumor going around is that they will be on the Smackdown brand. They don't know when that's supposed to debut. Some thought it would have been this past week on the quote season premiere and the move over to USA. Now it's pretty much a whenever they decide sort of situation, as what I've read on some rumors, but it still is a question mark as to when exactly we're going to see and how they're going to be presented. Are they just going to show up? Are there going to be vignettes hyping up their arrival? We don't know. We also don't know the complete status yet, but it's a pretty strong status that's going around right now that the Motor City Machine Guns are indeed signed or signing with WWE. And as reports have come out this week, they will be on the NXT brand. And I don't understand why there was this hatred towards them saying that the Motor City Machine Guns going to NXT was a bad thing. For those that haven't noticed, NXT has been doing very well themselves, still putting on great matches and shows, and it actually works a very similar pace and in-ring style to that of the Indies and the AEW side, which is a quick, fast-paced style, something that you could argue the MCMG helped establish is the best word I can put to that statement. They were the ones that were looked at as trailblazers at that time, back in the early 2010s, going into even the late 2010s for TNA. They were looked at as basically the godfathers of the style that we see so predominantly now. And I could only see them benefiting by helping the younger crew in NXT and let them get their feet wet. Plus, with the TNA crossover right now, I think it would be a seamless transition because you could potentially still work with TNA talent, a place you're familiar with. We know the Hardys are over there, and there's been rumors that they'll be coming back to WWE eventually, but they've been having a great time in TNA. You could always do something with that. There's a lot of opportunity for the Motor City Machine Guns, and it's not saying they're going to be in NXT forever. Maybe it is just going to be a little bit of a transitional period. Maybe they do need to get used to a little bit of the WWE style. Alex Shelley did a small stint in NXT, if you recall, back when Kushida was still there. So he has been there once before, but it was just for a cup of coffee. Now, with this potential run in NXT and in WWE as a whole, I think it's going to benefit both guys. I'm glad that they are the ones that are going to WWE. I understand some think AEW may have been the better fit, but they've kind of been there, done that. They've done that style, and I think this is the one last, I guess, hurdle you could call it, or maybe even achievement left for both men to make that WWE transition and be a success over there too, as I think they will be, no matter if they were to stay on NXT or, as I feel like some others do, them eventually going over to Raw or SmackDown is only going to benefit WWE. I look forward to seeing them. They've been one of my favorite teams for at least the last decade and a half, if not two at this point. So all good things coming towards Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, in my opinion. The Motor City Machine Guns are going to be amazing once they show up on WWE TV, and that could be as soon as the CW premiere for NXT. That is in October. And I saw where originally NXT was going to be doing a bigger venue in St. Louis, which was going to hold 17,000, but apparently only about 2,500 tickets had been sold to this point, so they switched the venue from the bigger venue to another one that can have a capacity of about 3,000. That's a smart move. If you can see that there is a ticket trend and it's not moving the way you want to, especially when there's only 2 or 3 weeks out from your show, if you can move the venue to fill it out better, that's the way to go. We saw AEW have success with that when they had their residency down in Arlington. TNA has shown that the smaller venues can still be packed out and give you that same energy, especially this past weekend shows. So while some may chastise WWE for being like, oh, look, you didn't really sell out a whole lot of tickets for your NXT brand in a 17,000 seat arena, sure, you could also then turn around and be like, well, they were smart, pulled the show from the bigger arena and put it in a smaller arena where it's going to have success there in front of a smaller crowd, but will have just that amount of energy that honestly, it doesn't matter that it's a quote smaller crowd. It's going to feel like they're in a bigger arena because more people that want to be there are going to showcase their fandom at that show in that arena, and it's going to be phenomenal for NXT's launch on the CW. Guys, that's really all I've got for you this week. Wasn't a whole lot of juicy takes. It was straightforward in-ring stuff as well as some backstage contractual stuff. But it was a great week for wrestling, both in-ring and backstage. I don't mind there not being a whole lot of drama because that means that professional wrestling is doing all the right things. So, with that said, what are you looking forward to coming up here in the next couple months or so? Are you looking forward to the Motor City Machine Guns debut? How about the Lucha Brothers? What about the premiere of NXT on the CW? Are you looking forward to Bad Blood and AEW Grand Slam? Is TNA hitting your spot as a wrestling fan? All of these questions and anything else you want to mention, sound off in those comments down below. Hopefully you have hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, please do so as it really does help the channel out. And make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. Facebook under the Four Corner Podcast, X formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We are on all those social networks, and you can follow me personally on X at Travis_T and ANDT. I will be back again next week to talk more pro wrestling, and hopefully we have just a good fun show like this without any kind of drama to talk about like we did this week, because honestly, it's so much more fun to talk about the in-ring drama than it is backstage stuff. So, until that time, you guys have a great week ahead. Look forward to talking to y'all again, and during this week, just make sure you continue to love pro wrestling.